Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of season 4 of our Full of Ourselves podcast. And we are very excited today to bring you another episode full of something very juicy, we think, and something a little bit different that we hope will be super useful and inspiring. And as ever, we look forward to hearing from you and your thoughts on what we are speaking about today. So I feel this topic for me, has been a real game changer. And this is about, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm at an event, whether it's networking, you're just out somewhere and you meet somebody and they're like, well, what do you do? Or you're trying to work out your own elevator pitch. And I know Anna and I have had lots of discussions around this when we've been coaching each other, trying to work out what that is in like a 2-minute or 2-sentence kind of statement. And that could be quite difficult, particularly if you are, as we both are, and you might be pretty multi-hyphenate, as in you have different strands to perhaps what you're offering. So it can be very difficult to really succinct that into just one sentence. And this is about, instead of answering the question as in what you do, this is about answering the question or being very clear about what do you stand for? What do you stand for? So already you might go, oh, that's interesting. That's different. And one of the things about this that I think is really powerful is when we're very clear about what we stand for, there's a lot of space in that. It's almost like a paradox. It's like being a tree, really rooted. I stand for this. And yet you can have different branches. I stand for this and I therefore offer speaking events, or I offer workshops, or I offer one-to-one, or I offer writing or videos or whatever it might be, or podcasts, or, whatever the thing is. So you're not narrowing yourself down. Instead, your main thread, your main mission, your purpose, your philosophy is like the sap that runs through every single aspect of what we're doing. And I think personally, that is a lot more intriguing when somebody asks you what you do and go, do you know what? I stand for this. And therefore, I offer this, or I speak about that. I work with these people, etc., etc., etc. So we're going to really explore this topic today. And what does that mean? And how can you also think about what you're doing in these terms?
I love all of this. This is an exciting topic, and I've just been frantically scribbling notes as you speak, as usual.
Right.
And I think one of the things that's interesting to me is, in the very traditional kind of business training world and in the business planning world, there's stuff around like, what is your mission? I'm writing like a mission statement, but really, I think mostly that is just a little bit of lip service, isn't it? It's a little bit of very surface level, big goals for the business and not so much around, I think it's changing, but I think technically it has always been much more around what does the business stand for? Where is it going? What's that mission? And I think we're talking here about that, yes, but also about something more interesting, which is what is important to you.
Yeah.
What do you stand for? Not just in a business sense, in that sense too, but also in a personal sense. And many of us are solopreneurs, or we maybe have a very small team. And so there's a lot out here about having a personal brand, and let's gonna get this buzzword bingo going today. But I think what we have as solopreneurs over the bigger businesses is we have heart and we have soul and we have something to bring that is not just about the business. And it's about how we run our business. I think there's so many different facets to this conversation that I really, I'm looking forward to getting into.
Yeah.
But I think, and for me as well, we're both of a certain age. I'm 50 this year. you've talked a little bit about getting your first novella published at, was it 53?
Ah, that's
Just
right. Yep.
trying to remember the age.
Yep.
So I think there is something, again, I'm not saying that younger people listening can't also have this for themselves, but it's something that evolves. It's something that you learn from seeing things and from experiencing things. And it's like, oh, something about this pulls me back. It's out of my integrity. It doesn't feel like the right opportunity for me. I think there's something around who we become and who we continue to be coming.
Yeah. I love all of that because there's a sense of, and I use this word maturity, but it is in that sense of actually, I know myself more. I know what's important to me. I know what matters. I know what I value. And that is going to infiltrate and run through everything that I'm offering. And it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I do think there is something here around age. I mean, we've joked before about like no one wants a 20-year-old life coach. You want somebody that's had the experience, that's been there, that's had the knocks, the falls, the experiments, tried things, success, and so on and so on. And there's something about when you go, I stand for this, it's come with what I call embodied wisdom. It's come with
Yeah.
embodied experience. And I think you can feel that in people. That's not something you can write down. That thing, isn't it? I've studied this and I've got this training and I've got a certificate in this. And yeah. I don't know if that's just changing thing or it's just where I am these days. That doesn't impress me. It doesn't make me go, I want to work with you. Or I want to lean in to hear what you have to say. It's more a feeling from somebody of they're walking their talk. They're living what they are speaking about. And that is a felt thing, and that is magnetic. That coherence is actually what makes me go, I'm curious. I'm pulling up a chair. I want to hear more. I want to read more. I want to know what it is. How can I be in your world? And that is something that I think that takes time. It's not something to rush. I think experimenting and trying, it's like trying. This work for me is very much about identity, the identity that we are living in and as. And we talked about this before. I am the one who, I am the woman who. It's got that kind of flavor to it. And that is a lot of trial and error. And I think something with all of this of what do I stand for? And I think it is a rite of passage, is that we will try other people's identities on. We will try doing things like that marketing person that we really like, that maybe we've done some of their courses with, or we'll offer things in the same way maybe as somebody else is doing, or we'll try somebody else's strategy. And there's a bit of a kind of strange it's a strange situation with all this because, yes, of course, there's a lot of amazing information out there. There's a lot of tools. There's a lot of strategies that work, that are useful. But when you think about it, if you just kind of step back a bit, and we're all doing this, I'm doing this, Anna's doing this, what we're offering out is what we stand for. It's the skeleton or the trunk, going back to the tree analogy of what we stand for. There's elements that work, but that might not be fully your picture. And then we can try and fit ourselves into these shapes that we think we should do because everyone else is doing this, or that's the right way to do things. When really, I think we know if we're standing for this or not because well, for me, it's all to do with alignment. We feel it. We know it's got no doubt in it. It's actually quite quiet. It's quite solid. Yep. This is who I am. Yeah. It's got no drama in it. But when it's not quite right, and I've certainly tried on things and gone down strategy routes and things that have not been who I am, part of it doesn't feel right in yourself. But in a bigger sense, I think that's reflected back. Maybe it doesn't work. We're not getting the clients. It's a very, very slow drip. And we're thinking, something's not quite working here. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And I think there are so many people, obviously, who are out there saying, this is how you should do it because this is how it worked for me. And I think there are so many different ways that we now realize, different ways to have the successful life. And there are so many different definitions of what does it mean for me to feel like I have a successful life. And I think one of the things I think that we need to do for ourselves is to define that. Like, what we're talking about, what do we stand for? What do we stand for? What is important to us? What is a hard no?
Wow.
What is a what am I interested in kind of evaluating for myself? And it comes back to all this stuff that I love to talk about around self-trust. Because
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is that you could do something that people say this is a guaranteed way to grow your business. You know, you follow them on, and we've all done. I'll say we've all done it. I've certainly done it. I've gone down those rabbit holes and been like, oh, tell me the answer, and it's always about checking in with, is this actually where I want to go? Is this actually where I want to grow? And does this feel in integrity to me? Does this feel like it? Does it feel sustainable? Because this is us in the long term. This is what we're going to be doing for the long term. And so it's not about, you know, just making the quick money. I think for us listening to this, it's not anyway.
Not anymore.
Do we argue against the quick money? No, obviously not. But in integrity, you know, it's like I think it's around. I don't want to call it the mission statement because I don't like that, but it is like the question is to go and journal and think for yourself around is like, what do I stand for? What is important to me about what I do and my business, and also outside of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is really, really important. And we'll give some examples very shortly, actually, of what we both stand for and then what that means as far as business goes, because I think that would be really helpful as well. And we'd love to hear, you know, hearing us speak that, we'd love to hear what you stand for. That would be fantastic. And it's also a great way for you to kind of just see, oh, yeah, actually, it is this. I think this is a big thing as well, is that, and I know I've been guilty of this, guilty or whatever, of I can't bring who I am into my business. That's a separate thing. And actually, I think that does us a disservice. It's like cutting off one of those branches, if you like, and going, no, this is it. This is just it when we're the whole thing. And thinking about like, what is it that's important to me? What matters? What value? What do I value? Especially like you say, Anna, this is not just about business. It's your whole life. What's a successful life for you? So, for instance, like for myself, one of the things that I stand for is playfulness. One of the things I stand for is the remembering of this quality of magic, or if you want, grace, if you like, in the world, not from a woo woo place, but from there is this aspect that, especially when we go into business, it can be dry as anything. Oh my God. And so boring. And I'm all about juiciness. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Okay. Well, how do I not going to kind of go into like a board meeting and start talking about magic, but maybe I am in some way, or how do I infuse if that's vital to me and I stand for that and I live by that and that lights me up. Is there some way then that I can bring those aspects, or how do I make this more magical when I go and stand there in front of my, you know, my team, or giving a workshop on a particular thing? And that's for you to work out. I think we often do separate these parts of us going, I can't bring that. But that's actually our superpowers. That's what we stand for. That's what makes what we're saying land even more, because we're not trying to be something that we think we should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's such a big thing. And even on social media, even when we've never met the person, still seems to be a way of just feeling something being off when you see someone who's performing rather than being. I guess
Yeah.
it's the way of things, and we need to learn how to talk on camera and things like that. I'm not saying that we don't need to learn certain skills, but it's about like how do we show up? How are we bringing who we are along with us on this journey? And that, I think, is the key part to it, isn't it?
Totally. And I do think it is a bold way to be. I think it is quite, I'm liking the word audacious this week. For some reason, that's my word of the week. It's audacious. It's risky. We talk about risk a lot in that sense of, we can't, even the fact we've called this podcast Full of Ourselves, that's risky. That's edgy because we're not willing to diminish who we are anymore, or what we speak about is about this. And you're here because obviously that resonates with you, as you wouldn't be listening to us. So there is a sense of, oh, this is slightly subversive to stand in this. And it might be you're swimming against the shoal in what it is that is important to you. It also means the risk of not being liked. It's the risk of being criticized, which I think anyway, we just have to find ways to deal with that, get over that, ignore that, have that strong. I think when we're very, that's the thing as well, when we're very clear about what we stand for, the haters, if you like, the people have something to say, it won't knock us as much because we're really rooted. It might be a bit like, ooh, ow, or yeah, it's not very nice to get the trolls, but it's not going to make us doubt because we're not coming from that place in the first place. It's like water off the duck's back, which makes me think of, is it Jinx Monsoon from Drag Race? Anyway, that's just going off slightly on a tangent. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, yay. But that's also something, it's actually a superpower.
I think it is. And I think this is an interesting thing because I've heard a few people even recently who are saying, right, I know I want to start my business or I really want to grow my business. And one of the things in the Good Girl Rebellion, that's a whole chapter in my book, actually, just going to plug that there, is on bold visibility because we need to be able to put ourselves forward and to continually do that. That's part of having a business. It's some, it's a non-negotiable, really. And I think what can happen is, I hear people say that's the bit I'm worried about. Like, I'm not worried about, running the business, doing the thing, making the product or the service or whatever. I'm worried about stepping into that spotlight that we've talked about before. And it's such a shame because we are holding ourselves back from this through that fear that you were just talking about. Through that
Yeah.
fear of these really petty, small-minded, sometimes not even real things, just bots who are programmed to just troll
Yeah.
and and just say the horrible thing. And again, we have an episode all about Don't Feed the Trolls, so we'll link to that in the show notes as well. So there's more to this. We've had a lot to say about that already.
We have a lot to say about that, and it's great because it's the same with anything. Just to reiterate this, if you are brave enough, because it is, put anything out in the world, whether it's your business, whether it's your art, whether it's your point of view, whether it's your voice, what you stand for, think about it in that way. There's something very political about what I stand for. If you think about that as an activist kind of sense, you're standing up for, you're speaking out for. So it has that element. It's a very powerful position to be in. What did they say in Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility. Um, all these.
Spider-Man? Well, interesting.
I love any kind of Spider-Man analogies. But going back to the social media, because you mentioned something, we've talked about this around where this comes into. I think it's a really interesting conversation. I think it'd be good to touch on this. How does that work when it comes to when there's a big issue going on? There's something going on in the world, in the news, with a particular figure out in the world, something is happening. And it's really interesting watching and listening to, I suppose, the commentary. I love reading the comments around things that people go, so and so's not spoken about this. so-and-so's not, why are they not saying anything about this, and so on. I was wondering if you want to kind of speak a little bit about how does that work? If we're standing for something and then there's stuff going on, do we also stand for that as well? What are your thoughts?
I think this is the crux of the issue at the moment, because a big brand, a big business is not necessarily going to make a statement about every single thing that's going on in the world. They're not going to do that, and we don't really expect that of them. But interestingly, there's an individual who has a business and has a platform, we have an expectation that they will take a stance on certain issues, particularly issues that maybe relate specifically. So for both of us, maybe that would be something on the kind of feminist track, if you see what I mean, or something that seems to relate to what we are, what we do, and who we are, and what we stand for. And I do find this interesting. I've seen a few people recently saying, why are people so quiet about this? Why aren't they using their platform to amplify this issue? What's going on here, and kind of criticizing them from that perspective. And I do struggle with this one, honestly, about what is the right thing to do. Because if we do believe in something, should we be doing that? Should we be using our Instagram to share about it? And then what are the issues that we do, and then what are the issues that we don't? Where do we draw a line on it? I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's quite a complex, I don't think it's a black and white arena, really, because there's also the aspect of, well, how do we know that person away from their social media profile is not speaking out or doing things or actively involved in that area, but they're not needing to or wanting to or choosing to make that something on their platform. That's where the responsibility bit, I think, comes from. Because sometimes I think speaking out about stuff, that's where the performative bit comes as well, of like, are you just doing this because you think you should, and
Bandwagon.
and in this season, we've got the episode on anti-shoulds, and I don't know, is following along with everybody else. Do you mean what you're saying? Because there's also sometimes with these kind of posts, and I've been guilty of this as well. We'll make a stand, we'll make a post around something, and then that's it. Nothing else is mentioned about it. There's no follow-up later on. Like it's just a kind of rote thing, a rote woke thing, if you like, to tick a box going, yeah, when it's meaningless. So, thinking about that can be helpful. If you see somebody who you follow that you really admire and respect, and they're not speaking out around things, just to step back and go, well, how do I know that they're not speaking out or being involved or doing things off camera? I don't necessarily know that. So let's just back off a little bit with judgment. And also, what would I do if I had this big audience so I could reach more people? Would I? And why would I kind of speak out? Is it because everybody else is and it would get me like brownie points? But, again, it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Seeing people be vilified for speaking out about things and, cancelled, if that's still a thing these days, or if we've moved on to something else. And this is why when we come back to what actually do I stand for? Am I willing and brave enough to really almost quietly, confidently be and live as that, no matter the noise that's going on around us? And one of the pieces for this that I think is really important, I said, this is about an identity where we're living as the identity that feels really clear and really true for us. And that doesn't require a load of fanfare or, fireworks and everything, is to ask ourselves, who's making this choice of what I stand for? Is it truly who I am, what I know to be the right thing for me? Is it my nervous system choosing off my old brain predictions, my old ways of surviving in the world, and I'm making those choices because I'm suddenly getting fearful, or I'm having a kind of a strong activation in my system. Activation is okay. Sometimes that's just because this is unfamiliar, it's unknown, it's new. If we are changing those patterns, if we've been doing this work where we're looking at old beliefs, limited beliefs is such a big part of both the work that Anna and I work with, then at some point when those loosen a bit and we start to go, well, what do I believe in? That's unknown territory. Of course, our whole biological system is going to get scared. It's going to feel like things are dangerous because it doesn't know. So to be able to kind of have some tools, which is what I do and offer and work with people, and be able to stand back and go, okay, I'm feeling this, but I know this is actually more truthful to me. Of course, I'm going to feel a little bit like that because it's new. It feels a little edgy. I'm stretching out of my kind of comfort or known zone. That's okay. Whereas if we don't have any question around that, we might feel that and go, no, that's wrong. That's too, no. My belief is this. So it's an interesting thing to add into this and you might know what you stand for. You might dream about it. It might really touch you when you see, or you have like a jealous reaction or something, or comparing when you see somebody standing for the life or the message that you have. It might just be that you've not quite yet got the capacity to stand in that, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think that is such a big point to make, because I think sometimes, we do want to stand up for things. We see a cause that we think is so important, and the nervous system, like you just talked about, it just goes like, ah! And the fear kicks in, and that, like, don't make waves, don't put your head above the parapet, all of that can come up with it. And we also know that at its extreme, that is the thing that that creates really tyrannical regimes, people not standing up for the things that they know they should stand up for, or thinking them privately and not acting in the way publicly through fear. And fear is one of the weapons people wield to try and keep us in line, isn't it? So we know all of this, and we still get that nervous system response, and we need to give ourselves grace because of that, I think.
Yeah, completely. And know that there are ways and tools and practices to support. More and more, I'm really understanding this as more like, it's never about getting rid of the fear. That's not possible. We're going to be dead if all the fear goes away. That's part of being alive. Fear is also excitement. It's also energy that wants somewhere to go. It's movement in the body that when we're fearful, that might go into fight or flight. It's that same energy. But actually, when we're able to just have a bit of space to hold that, even if it's uncomfortable, we can go, okay, where can I direct this energy actually? If that's not got all my attention and I've got a bit more space, I've got all this energy. What is it that I'm doing? Am I putting something out? Is it I'm going to make a video and speak about something? Is it I have an offer? That is our life energy, and it can be redirected in a way. And it's not about it's being able to find where is that balance for us, where we can keep growing to build more of what we stand in, stronger and stronger, and where we need to back off a little bit. Like I've said this before, this whole thing out there around, oh, it's learning to regulate, just got to regulate. No. That's just half of it. We have to dare to dysregulate. We have to be able to do that. Otherwise, we're never going to grow. And that's something I stand for. Let's do this, actually. What do we stand for? Let's give some examples and what that then means. I stand for this, therefore, blah, 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 blah. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, I've got a whole list. I'll maybe edit. You've seen my list. Well, I don't think we voice note each other when we just at FYI before episodes to kind of share what we're thinking. I didn't even read out all of mine to you on the voice note, but anyway. So I stand for women Well, I don't like this terminology actually, but I'll say it as taking up space. I stand for women having a voice and taking up space. Therefore, I don't apologize for wanting more for myself. I stand for women earning more. Therefore, I charge properly and I talk about money.
Oh. Do you know what it is though? It's interesting. It's so strong. I can feel your truth.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is important because I think people don't necessarily understand this. When I talk about the good girl rebellion and people think about the rebellion side of it, but I stand for our good girl traits as strengths. Therefore, I don't teach women to change who they are, to become louder, harder, or more masculine. I teach us to step into that. It's to step into who we are more. And that's a big deal for me because it's not about becoming someone else.
Yeah. I love that. I love
Have
that.
more.
Yeah, I know. I just want to say with that as well, just on that good girl thing is because there isn't there? Like if we're stuck in that mentality, good girl, I've got to not be like this because that's still like, oh, if I'm a good girl, then I won't have these traits. It's you're still living in that realm as opposed to going, no, let's take the charge off this and there's something useful in here. And yeah, I just wanted to comment on that because I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I do think that is an important thing. I've had people try and say, "Oh, you should be the anarchist and you should be this and that and the other," but that's actually not who they're not the good girls. So they're
That's
seeing
not
it
what you
from
stand
from
for.
their own lens, and that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing we have amazing traits, we have amazing things that if we can bring them and prioritize ourselves and our own business and our customers, that's when the sweet spot happens. That's where we have something to give. I stand for receiving, therefore I let people support me. I love that
I
one.
need your whole manifesto.
I know. I do need to make this into a proper manifesto. I'll go do one more.
Yeah.
I stand for women becoming the main character in their own lives. Therefore, I stop making everyone else's dreams happen before my own.
Oh my God, I'm dead. And this is just, it's mic drop.
But do you know, it's been interesting. We talked about this as a topic and I was kind of coming up with ideas. And this felt really strong for me. It's like, I stand for therefore. And I would encourage absolutely everyone to do this exercise, come up with these things and do it over a period of time as well, because it's not something that's going to come in one time, in one moment. It is something to do, to put, I love journaling. So to put, set aside some pages in your journal, write some stuff out.
Yeah.
Go away, go on a walk, take it with you.
Yeah.
Clarify things, take a week, come back to it. What else has come? This, I think, if you take anything from this episode, I think do this.
Yeah.
Because it is about that manifesto energy. It is about like, what are the hard things that are important to me? And what do I want to focus on? Because it is all too easy to pull back into that. Oh, I'll just do this for other people. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm not going to do those things, but it's within the things that are focused on me and what I need to do.
Yeah. There's two things in this as well that's just popped up. The first, I probably won't remember the second now because of my menopause brain, but we'll see. The first thing is what's really interesting about doing this. So you might have had a similar feeling that I did hearing Anna. You could feel it. Okay. There's a resonance. It's real. The second thing is when you do it yourself, this is a really good way to realize actually that's not true. You might think you stand for something and then you write it down and you say it aloud, whether it's to yourself, to a tree, to the mirror, to a friend, and go, if I'm honest, no, I don't. And that's okay. That's actually really, really fantastic.
That's important.
It's really important. That's the first thing. The second thing is when we know what we stand for, then we make life choices or life decisions or what path to go or what thing to focus on next becomes a lot more effortless. I'm not saying those things are effortless or those paths won't be effortless or, everything's going to just flow like some kind of magical dust beam, whatever that is. But it makes us clearer about our decisions because we know we have a compass. This is, it's a bit wanky, but we have this compass that's very, very clear for us around actually, I'm not going to say yes to that invitation because it doesn't align with what I stand for.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to say yes to this. Whoa, it's a bit scary, but this is so in line with what I stand for. We start to make decisions more from that place rather than just from a cognitive place. And that is, for me, that's magic.
Yeah. And I think that's really important because there are so many, we've talked about it so many times, there's so many different ways to grow a business, to be visible, to show up, and what's most important is not that we just follow every trend because we know that in the end it doesn't necessarily work for us. It is about, if we have that, if we know, if we have that, have that, what do I stand for, it makes that decision making much easier.
Yeah.
And I know for me and many of the good girls out there, we can really struggle with decision making because we've got this like brilliant empathy that we can see so far, and all the different permutations and all the different chess moves in advance and all of that, and it can be really difficult and debilitating at times to make that decision. But this becomes, a guide to help us. It's like, does it
Yeah.
fit with this? Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Right, brilliant. Let's go for it. Does it fit?
Yeah.
Not quite. Is there a way of tweaking it? It becomes something to test us, check ourselves against.
And it's really interesting as well, because for me, the word that I was thinking of before that went out of my head is they become non negotiables. And actually, if we've never, it's going back to things like needs, what do I need? Or what do I stand for? What's important to me? If we have been always looking outside in, I call it, living from outside in as opposed to inside out, the very first answer we might have to that question is, I don't know. And I always say, I don't know is one of the most powerful, beautiful truths for us to sit in. So if that's where
Yeah,
you're starting from, I don't know, how wonderful. And it's not like, oh, I don't know. It's, I don't know. It's a curious, I don't know. Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Let me allow that question to sink in. I don't know. Gosh, isn't that interesting? So that might be where you start from. And that is, don't rush to kind of go, I've got to put something down because that's the point. If you stay in there, I don't know for a while, that's basically you going, I don't know what my true identity is of what it is that's important to me. Gosh, I never knew that. Now I have an opportunity to sit in that space a little bit and allow myself to notice what makes me feel alive. What do I get lit up by? What automatically am I drawn towards? What automatically am I repelled by or just doesn't have any energy? That's useful information.
oh, it's so true. It's so true. I think that but I like that thing of I don't know. But I think you also need to, like you say, you see that with curiosity, because I think sometimes I don't
Yeah,
know is
yeah,
like a
yeah. It's not
stop.
a full
It's
stop.
like a
No,
no.
it's not a full stop.
And that's not what you're talking about. It's the I don't know yet. Or I don't know that. I wonder. I
Yeah,
wonder what it's going to be. I wonder what I get to create from this.
yes,
And that's the energy to take it from, isn't it?
absolutely. Because it's about all of this. And if I'm hoping you're feeling this. There's an empowerment energy to this. You're standing in your own power of who you are. That's why I say it's bold and audacious and it's slightly dangerous in some ways. You're not standing in who somebody else has told you to be or what you think you should be or what society expects. And there's something else with this of when we really clear what we stand for. Or perhaps some of those strategies that we have go out the window a bit. And that can be a bit like feel really paradoxical of like, oh, I should be creating, I'm having this. Like I should be creating this so I can bring in income for this. When actually, no, that's not, no, actually, I'm following this. How's that going to bring it? I don't know. I don't have to know. I know I stand
Yeah.
for this. I'm going to follow. And that can feel very scary, or it can feel like it brings up doubts. But ultimately, and this is what's interesting, is the more we stand in what we stand for, the less that we are betraying who we are, betraying ourselves, and the less we're abandoning ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I think for a lot of us women, I'm just going to like completely stereotype here. I think a lot of us women know the wound of abandonment. I think a lot of us have disappeared from ourselves for all sorts of reasons that we don't have to go into here. So this, in a way, is a practice of, it's a muscling of coming home.
Mm,
It's nice, that, isn't it? It's just come out my brain.
nice. Love that brain of yours. And do you have your I stand for
Not
statement
in the same
to
way you do. I'm like, shit, I should have actually just put a bit more thought into that. But let's see. Let's see. I stand for all of what we're talking about, actually. I stand for being who we are in a world that's told us not to be who we are. And therefore, there's this is all this is basically how I've lived my life. It's been my own journey. I stand for us having a voice and being able to
Yeah.
speak those things that we whisper to each other, particularly as women behind closed doors, or we feel ashamed of speaking about, or that are slightly taboo, or what will people say about this if they hear me? It's that is like, I can feel that in myself. I stand for those places having a voice, being spoken of, freeing those places up that are kind of like keeping us in some parts of ourselves imprisoned. And more, as I'm letting myself stand for that, I'm feeling more, I don't know if brave is the word, freer, I would say. I'm willing to go. I'm going to, there's something I'm writing about right now, which is very personal. And it's to do with the age that I am and being a woman. And I'm writing an article about this. You'll just have to, probably actually by the time this comes out, the the article will be out as well. I'm not afraid of going, this is important. This is what needs to be spoken of. For me, I stand for when we allow our voice of who we are. This for me is being political. This for me is activism. I stand for freedom of our expression and the ability to express that as a political activist act. That's my form of that. That's really, really huge for me. I stand for following what makes us feel alive and turned on. I stand for the fact that being turned on, being alive, living with this sense of electrical pleasure that moves through us. And I call any sensation pleasure. Sometimes it's deeply painful, but it's pleasure in the sense that it's aliveness, as that as the true guide to how to live. And therefore, using the therefore thing, I am cultivating that more and more in my own life, learning as I go along of the places where I pull away from that. Because is that allowed? Is that okay? Giving myself more and more permission to do that so that I can stand in spaces and give you permission to do that. It's not just coming from an idea. I'm really living that. I stand for coming back home to ourselves more and more and more and more and more so that we're embodied. I stand for the fact that it ain't that comfortable when we actually come home into our bodies. People lied. I used to be a yoga teacher. One of the first articles I ever wrote, Anna, ever, I think it's still there on Elephant Journal, was something about whoever said doing yoga was going to bring you peace or something or other. And it was because I used to be a yoga teacher for 20 years, those of you that don't know. I was like, no, the more you do these things, the more your body wakes up, the more you're back home, the more you realize how full of aches and pains you are, how uncomfortable it is, how awkward it is to be human. That excites me. Therefore, I'm not there going, you need to fix this, you need to work that out, smooth it over. In fact, I'm inviting you to really feel everything, to have the mud under your fingers, to have that kind of ache in your hip and go, I am here. That goes against like this beauty trope of the world and this idea of what we should look like and what's acceptable and visible and beautiful. And no. I also stand for the trickster energy of ultimately pointing out the absurdities, but doing so from heart, doing so from a place that gently then perhaps allows you to go, oh, maybe there's another way.
I love all of that. Yes, that all sounds very you.
And magic, I was
Yeah.
saying before. And I think one of the things, and I'm still learning this now, it still feels very new to really stand in all of that unapologetically in that spotlight we've talked about as the main character. I'm still just learning about this. I don't have to change that shape for it to fit in, for it to be digestible, for it to find its niche. This is very, very new for me. Of like, what if I trust in that? Trust in this is an interesting thing. What we stand for when we're clear is us going, oh, I'm owning my value. This is my value. And therefore we stop making things or looking for ways to go, look how valuable I am. That's different.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Love all of that. I have had a few other thoughts as we've been going through around this idea of what we share publicly about our values and things. And I don't know. Well, I think I think they're interesting. I think what I rail against slightly are those people who do it from a place of being preachy. It's like,
Yeah.
I know better than you, and you should be doing this. And if you're not doing this, then, it's that energy of the preachiness that always kind of pulls me back. And I think it's difficult to find that balance of saying, here is my values, this is what I stand for, and I am I'm working towards this cause and I want to share about this cause. I think that's a different energy to the, I know better than you and you should be doing this, and if you're not doing this, then and it's that energy. I've seen this. I don't know if you've noticed this in TV and films more recently. There've been actually some series that I've actually stopped watching because they've just tried to tell me what to think. They've tried to, they've got so like, oh, we're very, we're so above you, and it's got that energy of like, I'm telling you what to think, and I'm like, nope, I'll stop watching you now. Because it's that feeling of I need to shame you, I need to tell you. I don't
Well, it's
know,
also
does
I'm the
that
one
make
who's
sense?
yeah, it's I mean, I'm not
It's
going
authority, yeah.
yeah, it's authority. And I've just finished my nervous system training level 2 with muscle music literally yesterday, actually. And one of the things that has run through the whole of the year training, but this is not for here, is where we looked at developmental patterns called spiral dynamics. And it's one of those stages. It's called the blue stage. And it's where it's rules, it's authority figures, it's, we all have that in our development. And we were looking at all these stages in regards to social media. We had a whole month of this. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And it's exactly, some people come at that energy. I think, and this kind of goes right back to the very first thing we touched upon, which could be a really good place to start to draw this amazing conversation towards a close, is I think that's the point. When we're really clear about what we're standing for, we're not preaching it, we're not shouting it, we don't have to. It actually runs through how we're showing up in our lives. It runs through everything that we're putting out. It's something that's like I said, a sap, and people can feel it. And I think that's the truth, that we don't have to shout about it. How we're living, how we're showing up, that is felt. People get a sense that they stand for this. Yes, we have to speak. We can't just show up on camera like this. We have to like give something, but we don't have to shout it. We don't need to. We don't have to prove anything.
Yeah. I think that sometimes it does come from that proving energy. It's like I am this kind of person, and therefore I'm going to step into that and prove it. But I think my one of my fears comes from, back to the fears, but it does come from maybe that cancel culture, at that extreme level, but that sometimes, people seem to be so, again, this is again more general thing, but very judgmental. It's like, oh, I don't like this one thing that this person does, and therefore that's it. And I feel like we need to remember that we're multifaceted. We don't need to agree with everything that
Yeah.
that person does. Yes, if there is something that really goes against who we are and what we stand for, absolutely, that's one, that's a that might be a completely different thing. But I think that there seems to be that lack of tolerance for difference, that annoys me, and that I think is a concern sometimes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do that. Just no, scroll on. So one of the things that we're gonna leave you with as well. We've got, oh gosh, so much, and we can't wait to hear what your thoughts are from all of this. Is it's going back to that questioning of yourself, of getting a journal out. What do I stand for? And maybe some of it, maybe some of it you're in that. Oh, I wonder. I don't know. Is to scroll on, Instagram. I'm just going to use Instagram as I think that's the one that's kind of really good place to get that. And notice who it is that you're drawn to. Why do you follow certain people? And come from it from a place of, what do they stand for that is resonating for me? Because that is very useful. You'll get a lot of really interesting insights from asking yourself that particular angle of question. We could, I'm sure, talk all day about this because it's so fascinating. And every time Anna's showing something, it's popping something else in my head. And I can see her scribbling every time I'm saying something. And that's what I just love about these conversations with you, Anna, and our podcast is how much we riff and off each other and just bounce ideas. It's just so inspiring. And I, for one, can't wait to re-listen to this whole episode. I feel like I'm definitely going to take so many of our conversation from today into my day. So thank you so much for listening to everything we've had to say today, for letting yourself kind of allow some of these things in, which might feel a little bit like new or, a bit curious to you. Let us know how things have landed. Let us know also what you'd like for us to speak about, perhaps for season 5, you never know. And thank you so much for supporting us. As always, we deeply, deeply appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.